Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Liaquat Zaman and I hope you guys are having a fantastic time. Welcome guys, welcome my friends to this YouTube channel. Roots of Knowledge is where I make my videos so that you guys can benefit and learn the Arabic language, fiqh, hadith, Quran, all the different subjects related to the Islamic sciences. So this series is dedicated to helping you guys understand Mukhtasar al-Quduri. So this is a very classical text in the Hanafi madhab. Alhamdulillah, we've covered almost half of it. Today's inshallah is the last lesson on the section of ijara, on leasing. So without a delay then, let's crack on with this inshallah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَإِذَا قَبَضَ الْمُشْتَرِي. So qabada, it means to take possession of, so possess. And dar is the house, property. Ujra is fee. Lam yaskun, sakana yaskun, to abide or to reside in. Ghasaba, to usurp. Right, so usurp, this is a strange word. Min yadihi saqatat al-ujra. So saqatat, to drop. Al-ujra wa in wajada bihi ayban. Right, so a defect. Yadurru, darra yadurru, to harm. Sukna is residence. Falahu al-fasakh, it means to annul or to void. إذا خربت, to become derelict or to become ruined. Ad-dar, property. Inqata'a, to stop, cease. Shirb al-day'a, so this is shirb. Al-day'a is land or some sort of like property. Inqata'a al-ma', al-raha is a mill. Right, so a mill is called a raha. Infasakhat ijara, muta'aqidaini is the one that makes the contract. The contractors. وقد عقد الإجارة لنفسه انفسخت, to become void. إجارة عقد لغيره لم تنفسخ. Right, so again, all these words are words I'm sure you guys are familiar with because you guys are clever people, mashallah. ويصح شرط الخيار. So يصح شرط الخيار. I'm putting the vowels on here. Right, so شرط الخيار وفي الإجارة وتنفسخ الإجارة. So void, ijara, a'zar, excuses. Right, so excuses meaning like, reasons. Come استأجر دكانا is like a shop. في السوق ليتجر. اتجر يتجر. اتجر يتجر. That's on the tar, by the way. فيه فذهب ماله. So ذهب مال is mal disappeared. كمن آجر يوجر إيجار, to lease out to someone else. دارا أو دكانا. ثم أفلس, right, to become poor, to become bankrupt. ديون is debts. يقدر, to be able. قضاء, pay back, for fulfill. قاضي is a judge. And then you got dain is a debt. دابة is a mount or animal. سافر يسافر is to travel. And then عليها بدا يبدو, to become apparent. فهو عذر وإن بدا للمكاري. Mukari is like the driver of the camels or the guy who. من سفر فليس بعذر. Alright, so let's have a look at what this is basically saying. Actually, vowels, isn't it? Alright, so I can't forget vowels, guys, because you guys love vowels. So إذا قبض المستأجر, that's the فاعل. الدار مفعول به. فعليه خبر مقدم. الأجرة مبتدأ مؤخر. وإن لم يسكنها فإن غاصبها. غاصب is the فاعل. من يده سقطت الأجرة. وإن وجد به عيبا يضر. ضر يضر, to harm. بالسكنى فله الفسخ, again خبر مقدم مبتدا مؤخر. إذا خربت الدار, دار is the file of خربت. أو انقطع شرب الضيعة. أو انقطع الماء من الرحى. انفسخت الإجارة. وإذا مات أحد المتعاقدين وقد عقد الإجارة لنفسه انفسخت الإجارة. وإن عقدها لغيره لم تنفسخ. يصح فعل شرط الخيار is the فاعل. في الإجارة وتنفسخ الإجارة. تنفسخ الإجارة فاعل. بالأعذار كمن استأجر دكانا مفعول به في السوق ليتجر اتجر يتجر يتجر ليتجر فيه فذهب ماله فاعل كمن آجر دكانا دارا أو دكانا. So again, a lot of these, I'm sure you're probably thinking, these are so easy for us, alhamdulillah. لزمته ديون. Right, so this is the fa'il of lazimat. لا يقدر. Tell me, why is it mu'annath? Let me know why in the comments this is mu'annath, even though duyun is a mudhakkar. لا يقدر على قضائها إلا من ثمن ما آجر فسخ القاضي العقد مفعول به وباءها في الدين وكمن استأجر دابة ليسافر عليها ثم بدا له من السفر جار مجرور فهو عذر مبتدا خبر وإن بدا في الفاعل للمكاري مكاري من السفر فليس ذلك بعذر. Alright, so quite straightforward there. Let's have a look at these masail now. What is it basically saying over here? What does he want to teach us over here? That's the main thing. If you study any lesson, make sure you understand what the text is saying. Honestly, do not just go in parrot mode, like as long as your teacher is just telling you like this is that. No, you need to actually make sure you understand. Like, don't leave the lesson until you've understood each word, you've understood the meaning of every sentence, and you've understood the objectives of the author. These are three things to remember. Make sure you understand each word, make sure you understand the sentence meanings, what are they saying, and the objectives of the author in that particular sentence. Right? That honestly, that is some useful life tips, study tips. Right. إذا قبض المستأجر الدار فعليه الأجرة. Right. So this guy, he is leasing, right, this house. Right. So this guy is the tenant, and this guy is the landlord. Right. So we call him L, Mr. Liaqat. So the tenant, once he takes the keys, possession of the house, meaning once now he's got access to the house, his fee is going to start now. Rent is going to start. So rent is going to start as soon as he gets access, basically. So even if, for example, like he on Monday, he got the deal done on Monday, but he got the keys on Friday. You got access on Friday. So it's Friday that you start the rent, basically. Right, straightforward. إذا قبض المستأجر, when the tenant, the leasing person, he takes possession of the dar, فعليه الأجرة. So now he has to start paying the fee. وَإِن لَمْ يَسْكُنْهَا, even if he doesn't live in there. So even from Friday, even if he doesn't live in there, he's got the keys, he's got the access, it's all up to him now. But he's just gone on holiday for a month. He still has to pay that month's rent. Right? So the same goes for like anything, you do a course on some sort of like a school or a university institute, you agree to the terms as soon as you start benefiting from it, as soon as the lessons start. Whether you yourself benefit from it or not, doesn't really matter. Whether you attend or not, doesn't matter. You because you paid for it, because you've got access to it, you have to now pay for it. That's the deal, that is. Right? So anything like that. Now, what if halfway through this now, right? So this guy of ours, halfway through this, some very cheeky person, they now cause this person some harm. They've kind of taken over the house. We call him a ghasib, okay? Mr. Ghasib. Ghasib means a usurper. So tenant has gone on holiday. He's gone, let's say, I don't know, to Umrah or to Morocco, wherever people go on holiday. He's gone there. Ghasib has managed to break into the house and he has changed the locks and the tenant can't use the house. Yeah. So what happens is the duration of the ghasib staying in the house. So if the ghasib was in the house Saturday, Sunday, Monday, let's say for those 3 days, he would not have to pay the rent for these days. Right? He is not liable to pay the rent on those days that he does not have access to the house. Because ijara is basically only going to work if the guy is able to benefit. That's just the key there is. Remember that. So in ghasabaha ghasibun. If a ghasib, a usurper is like a squatter or someone who has, He's usurped it. من يده, from his hand. سقطت الأجرة. Ujra drops now. Right? Ujra's dropped because he can't get benefit from it. The guy has locked him out or he's done something like that. Same with a car. If you hire a car and someone's stolen it, you can't benefit from it. So you don't have to pay the rent for that car for the duration that it's been stolen. Right? Okay. And then, okay, now, what if he finds a fault in this now? Right? So this guy, let's say he finds, another example, a fault, an aib. Like, for example, he finds in the house that the house, the aib could be like, for example, there's some paint chipping off the wall, right? That's not really a fault. A fault has to be something which affects living in it, using the property. Anything which is going to really affect the ability to live in that property, or for example, like to use that car, anything of that nature, this is something which is going to stop the person from being able to benefit. Therefore, the contract, in fact, actually becomes void, right? Unless the guy fixes it up. So the contract becomes void here. Yeah. So this is one scenario of voiding of the contract. All right. So what is it? So وَإِن وَجَدَ بِهَا عَيْبًا يَضُرُّ بِالسُّكْنَةِ. If this guy was to find a fault in there that harms residency, فَلَهُ الْفَسْخُ, then he has the right to nullify the contract. He can go to the guy and say, well, look, you said to me this house was pretty fine. I've gone inside of it. Look, the gas doesn't work. The doors are not opening properly. There's a really bad smell in the house, or something which makes it like very hard to live in there. Right? Walls are falling down. Roof is really heavy damaged. Then the tenant has the right to nullify. And if he wants to carry on the contract, he can carry on as well. Okay. All right. Now this is obviously things that are temporary, isn't it? Like, it's not really you're not stopping him from using the property. He can still use the property, but it's just kind of like really awkward, inconvenient. It's kind of messed his ambitions or aims for that house. All right, so next. Now, what if, so one is a ghasib takes it, right? So therefore, the fee drops for the duration of days that it's taken from him. One is if he finds a fault in the house, which makes it very hard for him to live in there. He can still live in there. There he has a choice. Number 3 is if the property is really messed up, right? So let's do it over here. Yeah, so if the property is really messed up, so for example, like the house is crumbling, it's dangerous to live in, like really dangerous. You can't live in there. Yeah. So it's crumbling, or the amenities to the house have ceased. Like if it's land, water, he can't get water to the land. Right. So normally if you hire a piece of land, you want to grow stuff on it. Now if water is not coming to it, the water has been cut off, then you can't benefit from it. Like a house, you probably would think maybe, I don't know, maybe it's like electricity or something, gas, which in a cold environment where you really need it. Number 3, so number 1 is crumbling, number 2 is water, number 3 is, so again, it's like, for example, if the mill, you give the example of a mill, right? A mill, you know what a mill is. So one is a house crumbling, let's do a house there, right? House crumbling. One is where you have land and the water, there's no water, right, coming to it. Okay, no water. Third one is a mill. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen this. Have you seen those kind of mills where you have water flowing and then you have this big, massive wheel, right? And this wheel basically moves with the force of the water. And then behind this wheel, you actually have like a big stone, and that stone is on top of another stone, and that basically turns the stone. So the stone is actually turning with this guy, with this wheel moving. And then you can put wheat in there, you can flour it, you can make it into flour. Now, if that water stops, if there's no movement of water, then obviously the machine's not going to work. So if someone has hired this machine and now the water's not working, then obviously it's going to be useless, isn't it? If someone hires a car and the car engine isn't working, right, then this is basically what he's saying. So out of these 3 scenarios, all these scenarios will result in the contract automatically becoming void. Right, it's become void now. Contract's broken. Doesn't have to pay a thing. If they want to do a new contract, they renew the contract again. All right, so وَإِذَا خَرِبَتْ الدَّارُ, so house starts crumbling, ruin. Or انقطع الشرب الضيعة, or water stops in the land. Or انقطع الماء, or water stops in the mill. رحى. Yeah, رحى. Yeah. So the رحى, the water stops. انفسخت الإجارة. Ijara becomes void. So now we've learned three things now. If someone has actually taken over the thing, stolen the thing that you've got, then you don't have to pay the fee for those days. And if someone finds a fault in the thing that they've hired, which is harming their usage, in other words, it's not really stopping the usage, but it's harming it, then they have the choice of nullification of the contract. And if, however, it's really not allowing the person to be able to use the item, then the contract breaks automatically. All right, so these are kind of like things that I'm just mentioning about what happens in a contract and blah, 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 you know, who's got the rights, etc. So here, there's another thing. Let's say, for example, there's two parties. All right, so this is the landlord, this is the tenant. If either one of these die, right, so either one of these become RIP, they RIP'd it, the contract becomes void. Yeah, contract becomes void. Because a contract can only exist when the two parties are still living. That's the idea. Contracts can only list the two parties. If the two parties are not living, then the contract becomes void. Right? So this is why he says, إِذَا مَاتَ أَحَدُ الْمُتَعَاقِدَيْنِ, when one of the two parties dies, the landlord or tenant, وَقَدْ أَقَدَ الْإِجَارَةَ لِنَفْسِهِ, and the tenant has made the contract for himself. Yeah, so he made it for himself. Then the contract becomes void. Ijara becomes nullified automatically. However, if he was to make the contract for another person, so he's died, but let's call this guy Mr. Third person. So he's dead, he's RIP, right? But because he is still alive, the contract still goes on. So he says, وَإِنْ أَقَدَهَا لِغَيْرِهِ, if, however, he was to make the contract for a third person, لَمْ تَنْفَسِخ. Yeah, and the contract will not become void. It will not nullify. Okay. Right, straightforward again, straightforward. Very, very easy. Easy peasy, inshallah. I like when these lessons are easy and you guys understand. Let me know in the comments how you're finding these lessons. Are you finding them beneficial? Are you finding them difficult? If you guys also want to share my videos with others as well, and even if you guys want to do more than that, you want to support my channel on a monthly basis, then check out the details. Inshallah, you guys can support my channel, or you can ask someone else to support the channel. Sadaqah Jariyah as well, if you can do it for someone else, on behalf of someone else, and they get reward, inshallah. Alright, so, okay, next masala. So if you have ijara, so if you have renting, do the rules of bay apply to renting or not? So yes, rules of bay apply to renting mostly. So for example, like the concept of khiyar applies to khiyar ash-shart. Yeah, like you get 3 days choice. Yeah, you get 3 days. 3 days you get a choice. You hire a car, you want to test it out for 3 days, you get a choice. You want to rent a house, you want to test it out for 3 days, right? You can do all of that. Right? So all of these things apply. So وَيَصِحُ شَرْطُ الْخِيَارِ فِي الْإِجَارَةِ. It's valid to do shart of khiyar in ijara. Yeah, so this khiyar is totally permissible in ijara, just like it is valid in bay. That's why if you learn bay very well, ijara is going to be very easy. Right. All right, next. Then he says, what are the things that will actually void a contract? So we've seen some above things that, but this is now talking about reasons, like valid reasons that both parties have. Right. So let's say, for example, this is the landlord, this is the tenant, the landlord, the tenant, and they have some valid reasons. So for example, like this guy, I don't know, call him the tenant, Mr. Tenant, he's actually hired a shop, yeah, in the markets, and to sell stuff, right? And he's paying every single month, let's say, £100 every single month for this particular shop. So the rule over here is that what if, for example, what if he lost all of his wealth? The idea was to rent, but now he's lost all of his wealth. He can't really run a shop anymore. So what happens to this? So this individual can, and put a tick there, okay, that means he's allowed to break the contract. He's allowed to actually go to the other guy, say to the other guy, I would like to break the contract because I seriously am in financial difficulty. Right? My wealth has gone in the shop. All right, so this is one of the reasons. So تنفسخ الإجارة, ijara becomes void بالأعذار, with reasons, excuses. I'll call it genuine excuses. كمن استأجر دكانا, like a person who rents a shop في السوق, in the market, ليتجر فيه, in order to do trade in there. فذهب ماله, and all of a sudden his mal in the shop unfortunately has gone. Right? So this is one scenario. On the flip side, the landlord, can he have a scenario where he can nullify the contract? Of course. Let's say, for example, he started to rent out this shop. Right? So he's got, let's say, a house. He's decided to rent out this house. And as he's renting out this house, what happens is he realizes that he becomes bankrupt. And the only way to sort himself out is the judge has demanded, the judge, Mr. Judge has said, well, you have to sell your shop. But I've got tenants in there. He goes, it doesn't matter, get them out, sell the shop, and with that money from the shop, pay off debts. Yeah, debts have to be paid off. Right? So this is kaman ajara, like a person who leases out a property or dukanan or a shop, thumma aflasa, and then he becomes bankrupt. So this guy become bankrupt. فَلَزِمَتْهُ دُيُونٌ, debts become necessary upon him. لا يقدر على قضائها, he's not able to pay these debts off, إلا except من ثمن ما أجر, from the price of selling what he is leasing out. Yeah, so basically you have to do everything you possibly can to pay your rent, to pay your debts off. فَسَخَ الْقَاضِي الْعَقْدَ, the Qadi will step in. Remember, this is why the benefit of having this Qadi system in the country is because the Qadi can actually enforce the law and protect people's rights. So he's protecting the rights of the creditors. So Qadi will step in, nullify this aqd, this contract, وَبَاءَهَا فِي الدَّيْنِ, and he'll sell the property to pay off for the debt. Yeah. So this is another scenario. Right. What if a person, right, this is the tenant, okay, so again, so it goes back to, but I'll just draw another image because, this is supposed to be like my version of the camel. Tell me if you like this image. Yeah. So this is a camel. So this guy has now hired, right, this camel, right? So he's paid this camel, I don't know, £50 per week. Yeah, £50 per week for this camel, right? So he hires this camel. Now the problem is, all of a sudden now, so this is, let's say, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So this guy, this camel rather, it has something called a mukari. A mukari is basically like the camel driver, right? And he's hired it because he wants to go on a journey. Yeah, he wants to go on a journey. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. He wants to go on a week's journey. So he's made the agreement on Monday, and he's supposed to travel all the way, and then the next Monday, that's when he's going to return the animal. Okay, it's like you're hiring a car. You hire a car, you hire a mount, you go on this journey. Now what's happened is, unfortunately, his mother has become very ill. He's got to take care of his mother, so he can't go on this journey. It's been cancelled now. The journey has been cancelled. So if the journey has been cancelled, in this case, what happens? So this would be a valid reason for him to actually nullify the contract and get his money back. Right? So in other words, if this does happen, he can actually do this. Right? So this is only if contract was made to go on a journey and now he can't go on that journey. So what does he do? He nullifies the contract. So that would be a valid reason. What about the other way around? So first of all, let's do this one. So he says, وَكَمَنْ إِسْتَ, like the person who hires a dabba. So this guy's hired a dabba, £50 a week. لِيُسَافِرْ عَلَيْهَا, in order for him to go on this journey for a whole week. ثُمَّ بَدَى لَهُ مِنَ السَّفَرِ, then it became apparent to him from the journey, meaning something came up, stopped him from the journey. That's hidden in the text there. Something came up, bada, for him, that stopped him from the journey. فَهُوَ عُذْرٌ, then this is considered udhr. So that hidden word over there stopped him from the journey. Yeah. Now, what if the other way happens? What if it happens to this guy over here, the mukari? If he, unfortunately, can't go now, the driver says, I'm sorry, I have to stay, I can't go on a journey, my mother's ill. Does the same happen there? So no. وَإِن بَدَى لِلْمُكَارِ مِنَ السَّفَرِ, if the reason occurs for not going on a journey, but the mukari, فَلَيْسَ بِذَلِكَ بِعُذْرٍ, that will not be recognized as an udhr, they can get someone else to drive the animal, ride the animal, whoever it is. Does that make sense? Khalas, mashallah, whole of this chapter. This is probably one of the longest chapters. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it as well. What did you guys find the most interesting thing about this chapter? Right, so first of all, questions for you guys, because you guys love questions. First of all, when does a person start paying their rent? Answer is when they get access to the item they've hired or leased. Okay, number 2, if someone was to steal or to usurp the item, stopping the person from benefiting from it, does that affect the contract? Yes, it does. What happens? It will stop the person from having to pay rent. Okay, next. What if a person finds a fault in the item which stops that person from being able to benefit 100% from it? They still benefit, but not 100%. They can benefit 50%, 60%. So in that case, he has the right to nullify the contract. Yeah. Okay, number 3, what if it totally stops that item from being usable? Like, for example, crumbling building, water not going to the land, or water not working on the mill. Right? So nowadays you have like a computer you hire, but it's not working, software is not working. Yeah, or electricity, there's a problem in there. Anything like that. Okay, next one. So what if one of the 2 people in the contract was to die? Then what happens in that case? So if one of the 2 parties were to die, contract becomes void straight away. What if they did the contract for a third person? As long as he's alive and one of the parties on that side is alive, then it's fine. Right? The landlord and the third person. Okay. What if a person is hiring out a shop and all of a sudden now he loses all of his wealth, all of his wealth got burnt or lost? Then what? That is a valid reason to break the contract. What if the landlord has leased out a house or a shop and all of a sudden now he's become in debt, right? A large amount of debt, and he can't pay it off except by selling off the shop or the house? Then the judge will force him to do that. Okay, yeah, you got that as well. Next one. Okay, what will happen if you do ijara, but you want a khiyar shart in there, 3 days to test it out? Can you do that? Yes, you can do that. Okay, what about if a person was to hire a mount to travel on a long journey, and then all of a sudden he can't go anymore now because of some really serious issue? Then he can cancel the contract. What if the other way, the driver has this issue? Then he can't cancel the contract. Khalas. Jazakumullah khair, guys, for watching this video. Really appreciate it. May Allah bless all of you guys and put barakah in your studies and your understanding of this science. And it's very important for me, to really kind of ask you guys how you guys are doing and how you're benefiting. And let me know, inshallah, how any improvements I can make as well, suggestions, please leave them in the comments. And if you want to support my channel, it really means a lot to me. Thank you to all the patrons that are currently supporting my channel. Without you guys, honestly, it would make me extremely difficult for me to make these videos. So alhamdulillah, jazakallah. Make dua for my patrons, guys, please. Special dua on Patreon. By the way, one of my students, unfortunately, subhanallah, test from Allah, his father passed away from cancer a few years ago. Then all of a sudden, a few months later, his 9-year-old son got leukemia, and he's in treatment at the moment. And he's also been diagnosed with cancer, the blood cancer, very rare type. There's no cure for. So very close student of mine. Please make special dua for him. Ask people to make dua for him as well. Allah subhanahu gives him shifa kamil. Shifa is in the hands of Allah. Jazakumullah khair, guys. I will see you guys next time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.